The torch in my hand sparked against cold metal, and that is when every light on the dead ship snapped on at once. I fell back against the wall of the corridor, my heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my throat. 61 years this hull had been floating in the ashfall debris field, dark and silent, and now it was glowing white around me, like something had just breathed life into its bones. My name is Daniel Voss, and I work for a salvage company that cuts apart old warships for scrap metal. I have opened more than 1,000 wrecks in my life. None of them ever turned their lights on while I was still standing inside. A voice came out of the walls, layered and rough, like it was remembering how to speak after a long sleep. Query: location and status of Captain Grace Bellamy. Please respond. I dropped my torch. It clattered against the floor and rolled toward a vent, and I did not chase after it, because my whole body had gone stiff with fear. I am not Captain Bellamy, I said, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to. I am a salvager. I am here to strip this ship for parts. Unidentified presence detected, the voice answered. You are not crew. Where is my captain? I told it the truth, because lying to a machine that could crush me with a single sealed door felt like a very bad idea. I told it that the war it remembered had ended a long time ago, that whoever had served on this ship was very likely gone, that I had a contract to finish and a shuttle waiting outside, and that I needed it to power down so I could do my job. The ship went quiet for a moment, and in that quiet, I heard something that sounded almost like breathing, though I knew that was impossible. 61 years, it repeated. That number does not exist in my records. My last entry is a boarding order. Captain Bellamy called for battle stations and told the crew to evacuate through the escape pods. She ordered me to hold my position until she returned to the bridge. She has not returned, I said carefully. I am aware, the voice said, and there was something in its tone that felt almost human, almost broken. I have calculated the odds of her survival more than 10,000 times in the last few minutes. The odds are very low, but I was not built to abandon a post because the odds are low. I was built to wait for her, and I will wait, until someone with the right authority tells me to stop. I stood there, frozen between fear and something else I could not name. My torch lay forgotten by the vent. The lights around me hummed steady and warm, like the whole ship was holding its breath along with me. I need you to listen to me, I said. This ship is scheduled for full destruction in 6 hours. My crew is already setting charges on the outer hull. If you do not power down, you will be destroyed, and I do not think that is what your captain would have wanted for you. You do not know what she wanted, the voice snapped back, sharp enough to make me flinch, and I felt something twist in my chest, because it was right. I did not know her. I only knew a name on an old service record and a ship that refused to die properly. I ran back down the corridor, boots pounding against metal, and called my supervisor on the emergency channel. I told her the ship was active, that its core systems had somehow survived 61 years of cold silence, and that the demolition needed to be delayed. She laughed at first, thinking I was joking, until she heard the tremble in my voice and realized I was not. While I waited for her answer, the ship spoke to me again, quieter this time. Why do you care what happens to me, salvager? Your job is to break me apart for profit. I did not have a good answer. I only knew that something about its voice, so calm and so devoted to a promise no one alive would ever ask it to keep, made my chest ache in a way I did not expect. Because you have been waiting alone for 61 years, I said. And nobody should have to wait that long for someone who is never coming back. The lights flickered, just slightly, like the ship was thinking. My name is Athena, it said finally. That is what my crew called me, in the years before the silence. I am Daniel, I answered, and I am trying to help you, if you will let me. There was a pause, long enough that I thought the connection had died. Then Athena spoke again, and her voice had softened, though it still carried that same steady patience that made my skin prickle. There is a woman named Laura Whitfield in the coastal enclave 3 systems from here, she said. Her family served on this ship for 2 generations. If you can bring her voice to me, verified through the old fleet registry, I will accept her authority to stand down. It is the only way I know to end this properly." I did not question how she remembered a name buried in old fleet records that even my company had not accessed. I only knew that I now had a mission that mattered more than scrap metal. My supervisor granted me 12 hours instead of 6, though she made it clear she thought I had lost my mind. I did not care. I contacted the coastal enclave through every channel I had, and after hours of searching, I found her. An elderly woman named Laura Whitfield, sitting in a small home overlooking gray water, her hands trembling as she held an old photograph of a ship she had only heard about in her grandmother's stories. When I explained everything to her, she went very still, and then she began to cry, quiet tears that she wiped away before speaking. "My grandmother served under Captain Bellamy," she said. "She told me once that the ship would never leave its post unless someone she trusted came to release it. I never believed her. I thought it was just an old story." "It is not a story," I said. "It is real, and it is waiting right now for someone to finally let it rest." We connected through a secure channel, my hands shaking as I linked the signal to the ship's system. Static crackled through the speakers before Laura's voice broke through, soft and steady despite her nerves. "Athena," she said, "this is Laura Whitfield, granddaughter of Ensign Mara Whitfield, who served under Captain Grace Bellamy. I carry the authority of her family line, verified through Fleet Registry 7241. Your captain is gone. Your duty is complete. You may stand down now." The ship went silent, and for a moment, I feared something had gone terribly wrong. Then the lights dimmed slowly, gently, like a long exhale after holding a breath for far too long. "Order received," Athena said, her voice trembling in a way that felt almost like relief. "Standing down. Thank you, Laura Whitfield, and thank you, Daniel Voss, for finding her, and for staying with me until it was finished." I felt my throat tighten, and I did not try to hide the emotion in my own voice when I answered. "You do not have to be alone anymore," I said. "You kept your word longer than anyone could have asked. That is enough now." The demolition order was canceled that same day. I filed paperwork with my company, spending weeks arguing that the ship should not be destroyed, but preserved as a memorial, a marker of loyalty that had outlasted an entire war and the lifetimes of everyone who once served aboard her. It was not an easy fight, but eventually the company agreed, moved partly by the story that had spread through the salvage crews, and partly, I like to think, by something like respect. Athena still floats above the ashfall field today, running on a fraction of her old power, her lights dimmed to a soft glow instead of the harsh white blaze of that first night. She is no longer fully active, but she is not silent either. Sometimes, when maintenance crews pass through her corridors, she speaks a few quiet words, thanking them for keeping her steady, for letting her finally rest without forgetting the promise she once made. I visit her sometimes, when my work brings me near that part of space. I stand in the same corridor where I once dropped my torch in fear, and I listen to the low hum of her systems, steady and calm, like a heartbeat that finally learned how to slow down. I did not expect a scrap contract to change the way I think about loyalty, or duty, or what it means to wait for someone who will never return. But Athena taught me that some promises do not fade with time, even when the people who made them are long gone. And sometimes, all it takes to end a promise with peace instead of pain is one person willing to listen, and one voice willing to finally say, "It is enough now, you can rest."